The morning system. The morning system. As you say, Vice Mayor, how you doing?
Yeah.
And so, all right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June 17th Economic Development Authority meeting. This will probably be a relatively short meeting, as you have probably noted. There's not a closed meeting session today. So we'll just navigate through this. The call to order.
Good morning, thank you, Chair. Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Barber.
Here.
Sandra Smith is absent. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Harmon.
Here.
Carrie.
Here.
And Mr. Jones. Here. Chair, you have a form.
I trust that everyone had an opportunity to review the May 20th EDA minute meetings. There are no revisions. I move on. Good morning.
Looking at motion in a second. Is there any discussion on the item? Hearing none. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Barber. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
And Mr. James.
Yes.
Here, the item is approved by 6-0.
We'll move right into our agenda. Up first is a presentation on Portsmouth and work briefing.
Yes, Chair, we have this morning Leo Akajobi, who I think we've all been introduced to. He is our manager of workforce development. Leo will be making a presentation, I think, with the support of Sandra Briggs, our workforce development specialist, on activities over the course of the current fiscal year and what they have planned for FY26. So I think it's a pretty robust agenda. So Leo, I'm going to turn it over to you. Sandra.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm just going to have Sandra, the workforce development specialist, to speak to you about where we've been. When she's done with that, I'll brief you on where we've been. So, Sandra.
Good morning. Again, I'm Sonja Briggs, the Workforce Development Specialist here at the Portsmouth at Work Center. Just want to touch a little bit about the services that we offer to residents of Portsmouth, which is career readiness services, resume preparation, interviewing techniques, job searching, anything to assist residents with reaching their career goals is something that we do on a daily basis. We also offer education and training programs for those who may be interested in going back to school to get certification in different trades in order to have a pathway to employment, merchant seaman training, TCC, and their workforce solutions. They were able to offer medical assistant training, medical administrative, CNAs, phlebotomy, EKG. We also have CDL training. And that's just some of the programs that were provided to some of the residents over the course of this fiscal year. With regards to community engagement, we were able to host different types of events. The Connect Fest series, where we went out to the community to provide resources to the residents. We hosted hiring events and also did a spotlight where an employer came to the center and hosted an event just for their particular employment. So just to add on to the community engagement, a lot of the community engagement is through partnerships. So we partnered with various organizations such as the Urban League, Big Homies, Cuts YEP, the police department. We partner with Portsmouth Public Schools, their career and technical education program to host industry tours for the graduating seniors. We took them to Crawford, Norfolk Naval Shipyard, Links, various industries so that they could get an idea for what careers look like in those industries. And all of the community support, it wouldn't be possible. Councilman Hugel, all of your support is what makes Portsmouth at Work as successful as it has been. So we appreciate your continued support and everything that we've done over the course of the last fiscal year. And again, Mr. Leo will talk about like what that will look like as we move forward into another fiscal year.
I just have one question. I think it was slide number 3. Let's go back a couple of times.
That's the first.
They were before. Okay, I'm just trying to see, stuck in a slide to show people who were in the program actually got jobs.
Yeah, so they're just these pictures that I posted, and there's more like on our website who have actually taken the training, different training programs, but some of these are from Maritime Institute. And even though out of like 11 of those that are still working, they're at different stages, so they may still be waiting for their credentialing. I do think that actually Mr. Hillier, they did report, Maritime Institute was here recently, so they did report that he is possibly working with Dominion Energy. And so, but I haven't been able to speak to him to confirm that what his position is with them and how much he's making, but it's healthy amount. So just some of this is one of the TCP Workforce Solutions administrative assistant graduates just from this past fiscal year. So yes, they will come back once they get done, give us a copy of their completion certificate, a testimony if they want to, and pictures, and just work with them. I've been working with Miss Ely to help her to gain experience in the medical administrative field.
I was just to dovetail on what the chairman was saying, it would, maybe you already doing this, but it would be helpful to us to sort of track who actually got jobs versus just complete the program.
Absolutely.
Because those are kind of the results that I think we.
Mine was exactly the same as yours. It'd be helpful to know the type of client that you had, and also the types of jobs that they were able to, move into.
Sure. A lot of that data is dependent upon the customers coming back for their follow-up interviews and working with me to report that information. So a lot of the times if I'm not able to communicate that to you, it's just because the residents have not come back to share with me, like Mr. Hillier. Maritime Institute was the one who let me know that he had gained employment. Mr. Hillier hasn't actually confirmed with me that he's working at Dominion and how much he's earning an hour. So to be able to report that, they have to let me know and confirm that so that I can report that. But yes, we do track and keep in touch with all of the residents since I've been here for 3 years, trying to make sure that they have employment and that they're doing.
And most of this is, on what I would call the client-based, contact. Do you have a similar efforts for an employer-based contact?
What we'll probably do as we move forward, would set up the employer partnership so that we can have a direct contact. But at this time, no, we depend on the residents to report back for their follow-up on what they're doing, how they're gained employment and some of their, but we'll look at in the future. I do have some success stories. One of the guys who did a CDL training, it wasn't this past fiscal year, but in one of the previous fiscal year, he just opened up his own truck company and things like that. So I can have some of those success stories, maybe come back at another meeting so that you all can meet some of them, because some of them actually are doing well.
Actually, we recognize the need for that change. one of the things that we're doing now is to, one of the things that we're doing in moving forward and building up is to make sure that we track everything that we do. That would mean employment services, that would mean actually getting employment, retaining it. So we're not just sending people to training, we're also tracking and following them, even when they get the job. So what she talked to you about is where we've been. But what you asked actually lead me to where we're supposed to be going, and that is what we're going to be doing. So we've transitioning actually from referral entity. That is to say, we no longer wait for people to just go to our website and call in and say, I want this service. We want them to come in here so we can actually be able to know exactly where they are and then structure what we're doing with them based on each participant that we're working on. So that's where we're going. So we're going to be, as you can see, placing everything we do on proven practice and data. So that will capture the questions that both of you just asked a minute ago. We're also making sure that everything we do is based on the stakeholders' needs, not just what we think or what they just believe that they should. In some cases, most of what they're talking about really aspirations. So we work with them to structure those aspirations to become reality. We want to become more innovation oriented and based on emerging demands. Innovation in workforce is not just about equipment, it's also the way you practice workforce development. So if it means getting data, so we can use that data to inform our practice, that's what we should be doing. So to do all of those things, we got to know who we're serving. I think one of the questions that was asked earlier was about that. Who do we serve? We're serving new job seekers, and the new job seekers are not just new graduates. It can also be someone who decided to raise kids in the past that want to come back to workforce. So we want to make sure we meet them where they are. We're also serving career switchers. And I want to touch off a little bit about career switchers and dislocated workers. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. You can be a career switcher with someone who was just working in one field at one point. Maybe the industry is changing and they want to move to a different career cluster. It can also be someone like those who used to work on Ford Motor Plant before. When that closed, they didn't have any other way to go. So most of them, they want to continue in a field that is dying off. So they want to switch to something that is current. So we want to provide services to them. Then, of course, we want to focus on justice and work job seekers. Now, this is a very, very difficult group to work with. Most of them already have barriers, and if they stay longer incarcerated, it's going to be even more difficult for us to reach them. So one of the things that I'm doing now as we move forward is to meet them where they are. So basically, I've been talking to Department of Corrections and Department of Juvenile Justice so that 90 days before they even release to the city of Portsmouth, I would have known who they are. So we start preparing ahead of time before they come to us. That's where we're going. And of course, we provide services to employers. We're not just doing it for job seekers alone. If you're going to be coming to the city of Portsmouth, we want to know your level needs. So what do we do to make sure that we serve everyone? We empower job seekers with the tools to seek, secure, sustain, and succeed in gainful employment. Now, in the field of workforce development programming, every one of those four things that I mentioned involve a set of activities. If you're seeking jobs, of course, it's about resume preparation, career exploration, and things like that. In fact, Sandra talked a little bit about it before. If you secure a job, or before you even do that, we want to work with you on interview preparation. So I mentioned earlier about justice and work job seekers. One of the problems that they suffer is how do you transition the skill sets that you gained within facilities to actual civilian work? How do you answer questions about being incarcerated? Any one of those things can pose obstacles. So we want to make sure that we're working with them together to make sure that they secure those jobs. How do you keep it? Simple skill sets, soft skills. It's not easy it's one thing to get a job, but quite another to keep it. Almost all of us know about being on probationary period. That is a very tough time for a lot of people who don't have the skills to sustain those jobs. And finally, how do you succeed in employment? Now, especially since we provide those skills traits, like building construction, as you get older, you're not going to be in those doing the hands-on with level. We want to make sure that we're preparing you maybe to own the business and run it now. So we're integrating financial planning, we're integrating entrepreneurship classes into the program that we offer. So we're moving forward that way. Now, I decided to look at data to inform what we're going to be doing. These are the leading industries: United States, Virginia, Hampton Roads region, and Portsmouth in particular. They have things in common. Of course, you have defense, you have healthcare. You also have agriculture, manufacturing, logistics, and distribution. But we need to be more focused in the way we plan for those who are in the city of Portsmouth. And by that, I also looked at the unemployment rate. Now, if you look at it, Portsmouth is doing a little bit of lagging behind the rest of the ones in the region, definitely lagging behind the state of Virginia. Now, of course, economists would tell us that full employment is anything under 5% unemployment rate, but we don't want to be the one lagging behind. So one of the things we're doing is to conduct effective needs assessment so we can identify exactly why our population not securing employment as their counterparts elsewhere. It could actually, one of the things that I found out in doing that research is educational attainment. Now, many jobs now, even in manufacturing, because you hear people say jobs are living, we get in jobs, but the way we actually do those jobs changed. So if you were manufacturing something before with hands-on, now we're using equipment to do that. Some of them are computer-based. If you are not getting the proper skills, you're not going to be able to access those jobs, even if there's a million jobs in that field. So what we're doing here is to make sure that we're moving along the continuum and embracing what is changing in the community. How do we accomplish this? One of the things we can do is to develop a structural and operational service framework. So we're no longer going to be waiting for them to walk in. We're also no longer going to wait for somebody to say, I saw that you are providing this on your website. We are requiring them to come in. That is when we can conduct the needs assessment that I spoke about earlier. We get to know them. We get to know their needs. We get to make sure that whatever we provide to them is reflective of those needs. Since I've been here, one of the first things that I did was to find a way to create more cohesive programming. So the first thing I did was to create and implement a foundational career preparation and development program. What that means is everything we do now starts from somewhere and reflects every stage along the continuum. That program is aligned to Virginia Workplace Readiness Skill Set, the 22 Virginia Workplace Readiness Skills. So it's no longer that way, but we are customizing it even more. So instead of you just learning about soft skills, we want soft skills that apply to the field that you go into. It's not the same to be an admin here as it is if you were to go to somewhere that manufactures things. So we wanted to make sure that what we provide in them is going to work. So part of what will be included in that program is, of course, is developed and facilitated here. I'm actually facilitating that right now with the Department of Social Services. Sandra will be trained fully, so she can actually take up on that. But that is something we do in-house. We continuously measure skills that the participants will gain. We don't want them to go to a job place, then show deficiencies. We're going to be gauging that along the way so we can make the changes that are necessary. It's more cohesive and it's responsive to the participants' learning styles. The way I learn something is different than the way any one of you here will learn something. So unless you have them in front of you and actually able to make the assessment as you go, it's going to be very difficult for you to make those changes on the ground. So that's what we integrated. And of course, digital literacy is one of the critical success factors. There is no job now where, in fact, in the past, you would go to a newspaper ad. Currently, to even find a job, you have to go online. If you're not computer literate, if you're not astute, it's going to be very difficult for you to be even able to seek the job. It's not available to you if you don't know where it is. So we're integrating digital literacy. One of the things we've done in that aspect too is if we can teach it here, we are working with the Portsmouth Library. They have computer classes. I've already entered into discussions with them. We can send our folks from here to them on the days when they have those classes so they can actually intensify and also grab those skills that they don't have. We're also fostering financial literacy and pathway to entrepreneurship. Anyone who's been in business knows that those two things here are very necessary if you want to succeed in business. You have to know where the money is coming from and where it's going. So we are building that into our program. I'm actually going to be facilitating those workshop style so that they know how to manage their business, their money, and how to be successful when they start those businesses as they move forward. We don't want to complete programs without measuring the outcomes. We have to know, is it working? How do we know that? We know if you participate in our program, you should be able to sit and earn the Virginia Workplace Readiness Certificate. That's what it's based on. You should also pursue the even higher nationally recognized Career Readiness Certificate program. Upon completion, you should be able to access gainful employment and, of course, self-sufficiency. I spoke earlier about financial planning. Those skills are integrated in there. And of course, having a clear pathway to entrepreneurship, owning your own business. So everything we do here, we want to measure it so we can make changes for the leaders. The other thing we're doing is to identify data-driven training programs. Basically, we haven't made significant changes in the programs that Sanjay talked to you about earlier, but we are looking closely at the ones we can add that are also part of leading industries. So all of these are here already, including commercial driving and information and digital technology, computer fundamentals. There are things I didn't add there. With the Tidewater Community College, we are able to also add cybersecurity, networking. I just didn't remember to put that in there, but that's part of our program too, that we can refer people to. But whichever one that you go into will depend on where you are. So I don't want someone to come here who already has a degree, who use computers, and then we're referring them to computer fundamentals. So if it turns out you are able to successfully get into the computer networking class or cybersecurity, we shouldn't hold you back because that would be frustrating. But if you come in and you don't have the skill set to go into those two that are more advanced, then we should be able to enroll you in the computer fundamentals so that you at least be able to be successful if you were to enter the other advanced ones. Healthcare services. This is among the top leading industries anywhere, whether it's national, whether it's state, regional, or here in Portsmouth. I just have been looking at culinary arts. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about food service handlers. Anybody can get that one. The aim is not to finish and then go back to McDonald's and still receiving benefits from social services. The idea is for you to become a professional so that you can actually open yours or work for the hotels around here. So that's the direction we're moving with respect to programs. How do we measure that? Every single program that we offer, we want you to know the credentials that are associated with it. All of those credentials you should be able to earn. So as I speak to those service providers, one of the conditions that I gave them, actually two, I need you to give me a list of the employers that you are going to work with if they complete the program. And the other thing will be what credentials are they going to earn when they leave you? If you can't answer those two, I won't sign with you. Because there is no need for us to send you somewhere and you complete it, come out, and yet you are not able to access employment because the obstacles are still there. So I use the electrical, and I talk to my colleagues here always. If you look at electrical, to become a journeyman in Virginia, that's about 8,000 hours post-classroom related work, or 4 years of employment. So if we're sending you to TCC, it's incumbent upon them to prove to us that, yes, when they come to us, part of your learning process is to also be able to access and earn those credentials. So sometimes we use the certificate and credentials interchangeably. They don't mean the same. So we want licenses that are recognized by the industry itself. Why credentials? The industry recognizes it and it's transferable. One of the things that we are avoiding now moving forward is, while it's good if you're working for a specific company to train you for something that is for them, I don't want them to leave you and then won't be able to access employment with another employer. So the transferability is key for us. And of course, employer preference and performance-based. It's not a classroom where you just study something in theory. Every program we offer, you should be able to demonstrate the skill set when you leave. We want to improve our strategic alliances. I mentioned already about DJD and DOC. It will serve both parties much better, and of course, the city of Portsmouth, if we know who is coming back. That is something you handle delicately. But if you were to work well with them and know who is coming to you and shape the training program based on what they have, many of them won't speak too much. So I'm using that as an example. So we want to make sure that we do that. Now, we're working with Portsmouth Public Schools. In fact, one of the programs that I'm so happy we were able to create was the Youth Occupational Mentorship Program. We just had 3 days here, 10th, 11th, and the 12th, where the kids came here and they were able to meet in person with employers and other service providers, because it's career exploration. They should know what is in front of them. So they were able to meet those people and they were happy. So organizations that would actually have a say in their careers were able to meet together with them. We collaborated, like I said earlier, with Department of Social Services so that we meet people at source. So the unemployment rate that I talked about earlier, about 4.3%. If you disaggregate that data, majority are receiving services. So if we're actually honest about trying to lower that number, we need to meet them where they are. So Department of Social Services have a lot of them. The Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority would have a lot of them, and sometimes they are also part of the same. So I want to bring them in here, and we already started that with the Department of Social Services, sending us people to come here and work with. We collaborating with the Portsmouth Library, like I said earlier, and we are creating a citywide workforce work group. Why is that necessary? It is necessary because I don't know what's happening everywhere else. They don't know what we're doing here. So I need for us to bring skill set together to discuss and give input as to how we're going to actually be able to develop programs that will serve every person. So when that takes off, I'm looking at it to be maybe once a month. So all the people who have anything to say with the unemployed or job seekers or whomever, we can get together and plan along and move together. Measurable outcomes of that. And if you notice everything that I said we're going to do, we have a way of saying if it's working. If it's not working, we make the changes. So one of them will be, of course, we're going to optimize resource utilization. There's no need for us to be duplicating something when, if we come together, it turns out we can actually have every person to be incorporated and integrated in the things that we do. It's a much better coordinated and consolidated career development program, and that is the innovation in career development now. We want to make sure everything is included all in one. This is also making sure that we are providing something for those who need it. It's not for us, it's for them. So that is one of the things, and of course, the credentials that they will receive. The other thing we're doing as we move forward is to foster program awareness. A lot of people don't know that we exist. I want to change that. So one of the ways we can do that is to communicate better and to add wraparound services. Some of them will be use of multimedia platforms to provide structured programming information. Our career and resource fairs, Sanjay's already been doing that, and we just want to make sure that it's tightened a bit so that people that we bring are addressing the leading industry needs. Workshops and topical seminars. Now, I want to do more of those. The reason is because if you do just career fairs, people tend to just pick up stuff and leave. The workshops, or even when we do our classes, this is when you get to know what someone really needs. Then you just hone in on that area and bring people to focus a little bit more so they can tend to be hands-on. If you're lacking computer skills, maybe I bring somebody who will be working with that group, smaller group, to work on that. Topical seminars, you bring subject matter experts to come and speak to them. Sometimes it's not the message, you might be the messenger. Maybe I'm not the person to speak to a particular group. I can bring someone else to come in and speak to them. So that's why we want to do that. Employer linkages. One of the things that I have started doing, and I've told every person, including Sanja, is that when people complete our programs, we want to follow them. So we use that email as a database. We're going to be sending them, because we started doing job searches here. Since we know what you completed, we're going to be sending you jobs every week that is in the field that you completed. And if you need a little bit of interview brush up, you can come back here and we can work with you on that. We want to start our Dress for Success program. So if it's about clothing, if it's transportation, let's talk to the people that will help you do that. So we're going to link him to employers directly. And the job referrals and placement is what I just spoke about a little. And interview practices is no longer going to be mock interviews. It's going to be simulated. That is, if we were to complete you and we're doing a workshop here, we're going to bring actual employers. I'm going to get their job descriptions. We're going to place them here to feel the same pressure that any one of us will feel if you go to an interview. We're going to have subject matter experts to do the interviews. So there's no need for you to be learning how to interview for hospitality and we get somebody in construction. That will not work. So we actually try to remain a little bit more focused in what we do. And I'm going to just turn it over if you have any questions for me.
I just do a follow-up from previous thing. Most everything I've heard, you're focusing, and I think rightfully so, on the individual and, how to improve the services, the skills like that. But there's a flip side to that, which I haven't heard very much about. That's the employer side. And the employers from, the Portsmouth community and, making the contact, knowing what they need and making the linkages to what the employment opportunities are in the city. And that's the piece of the equation I don't see quite reflected in your presentation.
Actually, maybe I didn't speak a whole lot about it. I did mention employer linkages. Let me speak a little bit or expand on that. We actually doing the good news is, unlike many places, the Workforce Development Initiative in the city of Portsmouth is one of the best that I've seen, and I've been in this field a long time because it's housed with the Economic Development Department. The advantage that brings to us is it turns out I have access to almost every employer that is in the city of Portsmouth. So we get to learn, and I've been going everywhere that our director goes and my colleagues in the department here go in terms of meeting those employers. I'm actually talking to them, and some of them will feature in our workforce work group. I'm trying to identify the ones that are a little bit more relevant to what we're trying to do to make sure that they're inclusive. Now, I did say earlier, one of the measurable outcomes of what we're doing in terms of the career preparation program is also for the employers. So we now get to know what they're looking for. So just recently, my colleague here, Autumn, and I went and drove around with someone who's trying to come to the city and open, I think, a grocery store. I'm interested in knowing that. Why? Because I want to know and anticipate in advance what will be the level requirement they will need. See if I have those people already trained. If I don't, let me identify the ones who are more inclined to benefit from that and train them before she even steps foot here. So we're doing both sides. Our program is benefiting actually both sides, not just the job seekers. Because if we want to do economic development anyway, you need competent, capable workforce. So that is part of what our director here has emphasized to me, and that is the thing that I want to do.
Just a two-part question. I think I understand what Neil's saying. I think, and I don't want to put more on your plate, but I think if it employer outside of Portsmouth needs to employ people? I mean, are you working with people? I'm sure Brian knows this, but like the Hampton Roads Workforce Development Council, they have a workforce folks. And are you meeting with those employers that may open up opportunities for people who live in Portsmouth, but necessarily aren't going to work within
Yes.
Portsmouth?
We-
I figured the answer was yes, but I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just recently, actually, we had workforce, Hampton Road Workforce Council.
Yeah, with Sean Avery.
They came here.
Yeah.
I met with
Great.
a lot of our people,
Okay.
but even before I came here, I've already been aware of the work they do.
Okay,
And we actually work with them with the incumbent worker program. We work with them with the OJT, on the job training program.
Okay.
So basically, anything they're doing, we are already part of it.
Right.
For the employer side of it, I'm heavy on it. We recently met not just the grocer, potential grocer, but we recently also met with somebody who might want to come here and develop. So I talked to them. And one of the things that I have said is, the director knows this. Anywhere you go, let me know who they are as they're coming in. I want to know, because that is part of what we're going to be doing, revolutionize the way we do business here. We want to serve the interests of both sides.
okay.
If you are trying to come into the city and you don't have those who will be doing your job. In fact, I forgot his name now, the developer, one of the questions he asked me said, I might be looking for a project manager in the city. And since he said that, I've been thinking about how do we work to identify the best people who might apply for that position to represent his interests. They're in Maryland, but they want to do business here in Portsmouth. So the idea of working together with whether it is the real estate side or the business development side, all of those is how you do workforce development. But in my previous jobs, I've not seen it because I have to actually go into the community, find those employers and find everyone. But here is sitting here. All we're doing now is identify the correct ones so that we can use that for what we're trying to do. But yes, we are working on both. But one of the benefits of presenting this to you now is I also know that it's on your mind. So I'm going to intensify the effort to make sure that that remains central in whatever we do.
So, second question, if I may. Do you anticipate, with the, federal layoffs having any impact on what you do? Because I noticed that luckily our unemployment rate in Portsmouth has not, it's fairly stable, but when you look at Northern Virginia, their unemployment rate has doubled, I believe, in the last couple of months.
Yes.
So do you envision you guys having any role for those federal employees that may be displaced?
I'm tracking it.
Okay.
That's what I mentioned by dislocated workers.
Okay.
They're highly skilled, but what skilled jobs do we need them here? And if you're highly skilled, we actually in a better position because what you said earlier, in Northern Virginia, that took close to almost 48% of the dislocated workers. Theirs is that they are hugely actually defense contractors. So it didn't give them a whole lot of room to maneuver. So most of them have to really go down or take something lateral if it's available. Hampton Roads is slightly different. The way it will affect us will be associated industries, whether it's in hospitality. So because a lot of people who are here, 1 out of every 6 jobs in Hampton Roads are dependent on Navy. That is even narrower when it comes to the city like Portsmouth or Norfolk, 1 out of every 3. Excuse me. So I'm keeping an eye on such numbers and trying to make sure that whatever linkages that I'm making is related to how we're gonna work with those. And yes, we're working with Hampton Road Workforce Council, but we're also working with other organizations that may have anything to do with them.
Great.
So we're
Thank
looking in more and more in the future.
Good job. I'm really impressed with what,
I think it's an excellent presentation. I really like the way you're tracking things. I think the thoughts, and I know you're not gonna be able to address this, but one of the things I've always tried to understand, if we did a deeper dive on the citizens in Portsmouth, are we able to address things like, average age, percent with degrees, graduation rates? Those who graduated, did they go to higher education, did they go on training program? So that once we get a profile of a typical citizen in Portsmouth, do the programs that we have align with that? You know, do we need to have programs that allow high school directly to jobs? You know, if the graduation rate is relatively poor, they're not going to higher education, but they're wanting to get those skill sets, which they can address here. But I've always struggled with what is the profile of Portsmouth citizens?
To be honest with you, about a week ago, I started building on that. Our educational attainment, which I mentioned earlier, is critical. Because what is happening is we have jobs. We still operating under full employment capacity. It's still under 5%. The question that I've asked myself and been working hard to address is, why are they not accessing those available jobs? I do cite at least about 10 to 15 job boards almost every week. And I'm tracking the nature of the jobs that are actually available, then looking at who we have and looking for those jobs. It's educational attainment. Now, high school graduation does not actually answer that question. Even college graduation does not answer that question. The issue is among the ones that are unemployed, and the way to get the data is to go through whether it's the Department of Social Services, whether it's Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority, anywhere, because majority of the people who don't have all the skills to access the more advanced jobs tend to be also people who are receiving benefits. That is the reason they are. And that's not a knock on them. It just happens to be that even if you have 1 million jobs in those high-tech areas, even if you have 1 million jobs in the area that says something about programming, you're not going to be able to access that. So for that reason, I have been leaning a little bit hard on the Tidewater Community College because they are well positioned to do that. But some of the training they're going to be needing will not require you having some prerequisite higher ed in order to embrace that. It's just how you integrate the mixture of the skill set that is integrated in the course outline that you're teaching. So, but we're lucky because we have a new vice president for business solutions at all. He's been very, very open in hearing what I'm saying. I've also met the one on the academic affairs side because what is happening is some of the people who are going into business solutions, the actual like construction and stuff like that, are not able to access the other things on the academic side. So based on the conversations we're having, the two are talking now as to how they can do that. What is educational attainment? It is digital literacy, the two critical success factors for access and employment for those who are trying to move.
Just on the data side, do you have access to job detail?
Not that particular one. I'm actually going to talk to him a little bit. There are some of them, the data that I need to have access to that we work in, and I've been very fortunate to work on the director and then the deputy director. But I sent information just 2 days ago about the numbers that I need and the kind of data that I'm going to be needing. However, I do have access to other databases that actually allow me to access information that I need at the current time.
Reason that I asked that is JobDQ has as a component of the database, they track the job announcements versus if you go through the BEC database, they only list the ones that are listed with them, but JobDQ has a broader access to data that by locality. In other words, what are the jobs and what are the skill sets that are needed within the community, and they track it on a timely basis. So that usually is in terms of workforce development, that's usually a very useful tool to be able to understand.
Well, Virginia Department of Workforce and Advancement, Workforce Opportunity and Advancement actually tracks that, and I do know their creation. I do get data from them as well. They have up-to-date data because when that department was created, one of the issues that the governor, the mandate they gave me to track. I used to sit in their committee as well, so I do get access to that information. through another agency.
Vice Mayor Moody Hill.
Yes, excellent presentation. In fact, I think we should have it on the public works session. I think more people know of what's available, what kind of training. But my question also is in sales. Some of the highest paid positions are sales positions, whether it be in the medical field, the culinary field, the supply field, real estate. What do you have that fits into that category?
Well, our career preparation program is actually the key to it. Because what we've done is to identify some of the critical success factors and make sure that it's integrated. So if you're doing sales, it's communication skills, it's people skills, customer service skills. So we want to make sure that those people understand that and know it. So for instance, there is another area. So the program that we are going to be housing here, which is becoming a test center for the career readiness program, actually looks at those. The three core aspects of it. One is located information, reading for information, and applied mathematics. All of them are central to being successful in sales jobs. So we are actually working towards making sure that that is included. But it's also important to note, when I mentioned earlier that the education attainment is important, because those higher sales positions require certain skill sets that might be beyond just walking into a Walmart and selling something. So we are embracing that and making sure that what we do through our program will be addressing those issues.
Okay, thanks.
So I just have some comments. I agree with the vice mayor. We need to get this to a work session to help advertise. You didn't mention Hampton Roads Workforce Council as a strategic partner. I think they're a critical strategic partner, and you ought to add them in there. They get a lot of money. And so our ability to tap into their money to help us do some of the things that you're trying to do. Additionally, your CPDP, they already got all that stuff figured out. So hopefully you're leveraging that relationship to reach and tap into their resources to help you as you're putting that program together. So I appreciate the measurable performance things that you've identified. The thing you haven't identified as a measurable performance that I think I heard is jobs. End of the day, all of the certifications in the world are interesting, but they don't pay the bills. I get it that you want to follow. You have to follow, because we need to know this is all an important investment, but if it doesn't result in people getting employed, then we're spending a whole lot of time and energy and not really knowing how successful we are. Jobs is what it's all about. At the school board liaison meetings, we've talked about CTE, and one of the comments that the manager has made back to the school superintendent, the city is an employer. We need skills that the school system is teaching in CTE. So you don't list the city as a partner, but and hopefully you're working with the manager to figure out what are the needs that the city has. And how do we steer people into some of those career fields, and then how do we get them back so that they come into to jobs at the city? PRHA, the same thing. You had them listed, but Ms. Winston needs HVAC people. She needs carpenters. There's all kind of needs in PRHA, very similar to the city's needs. So several times you've said we're meeting them where they are. When Nala was your predecessor, Chief Jenkins took her into the communities that are struggling to find jobs. I attended several of those things. And the idea was Chief Jenkins said, look, Nolly, you got to get to where these people are because they're the ones who need jobs. What I saw was a smattering of people coming out from the neighborhoods to attend those things. And so I think we were investing a lot of energy to get out there, and the return on investment wasn't great. Interestingly, there was a nonprofit in Newport News who scheduled a career fair thing at the Sportsplex just one time. And I attended. There was a parking jam around the Sportsplex that night. I mean, there were probably 300 people that turned out. There were more people that turned out in that one night in response to that nonprofit than all of the neighborhood engagements that we try to schedule. So I talked to the guy that was their organizer. He said, oh yeah, we go into bars and we tell people, hey, so do you need a job? Are you happy with the job you got? We have an opportunity upcoming, come and visit us. So there may be some lessons that we can learn, or maybe even, I mean, they're a nonprofit, they're for hire. Centera, I think, actually paid for them to come to Portsmouth, but the city of Newport News has kind of been footing the bill to have them run these same things over in Newport News. Maybe we need to go investigate, figure out, do we need to tap into their meet you where you are methodology and have them help us get your story, which is a really good story, but not well advertised in the city, out to the city. And then the last comment, so some of us have been frustrated that our students are not, a lot of our students are not graduating with the ability to pass the TCC entrance exam. Why is that important? Well, you don't need to pass the TCC entrance exam to do the workforce classes at Skilled Trades Academy, but you do need to pass the TCC entrance exam if you're going to enroll in the Navy Yard Apprentice Program or any of the apprentice programs that TCC offers. The TCC has on their website a practice exam, so I took it just for the fun of it to find out how hard could this possibly be. So it was arithmetic, and our kids can't pass arithmetic. So some of us have been talking about, well, maybe, SAT, there's boot camps and prep courses and all that. Turns out, went on Amazon, I found a book prep course for the BDEP, I think it's called. But anyway, the entrance exam for TCC. Maybe we need to think about creating a boot camp to help our kids, those 600 kids that just graduated that aren't going to college, and only 30 of them participated in CTE signing day. Okay, so there's about 570 kids that graduated with nothing. Okay, we didn't set them up for anything. And so there's 570 opportunities to help them find jobs through the Skilled Trades Academy, apprentice programs, or whatever. Anyways, just some things to put in your thinking cap.
Well, let me start with the last part of it. I guess I'm going to list everybody here to help us out. So if you do run into anyone or any organization, whether it's for profit or non-profit, that you believe will fit into the vision that we have, please, by all means, let me know. I'll be glad to meet them wherever they are, so that we can, in fact, they can work with us in that workforce work group. That is the vision. As for strategic alliance, when it comes to the Hampton Road Workforce Council, we are very much embedded in what they do. Just recently, I had lunch with their president, with the director here, and the conversation was also how we can work together. So we are very much aware of how important they are and the kind of services that they provide. Now, as it pertains to the program that we developed,
Are we getting any of their money?
That's it. So if we,
In my mind, that's a measure of success in that strategic alliance.
yeah,
We can sit in a room and drink coffee all day, but when they start writing you checks,
that's the advantage.
we are winning.
That's the advantage I have for having a director who feels comfortable taking me along to meet with the president of that organization. So we are already in talks with them to make sure that everything that we're looking for is aligned. But one thing I want to say though is as much as they provide great services, we've already addressed the fact that each location has a different kind of dynamics. So we want to make sure that ours is a little bit more customized, narrowly focused on the population that everybody here just spoke about. That's one of the reasons that I want to make sure that what we're doing here address the needs of our own population. So we are doing that. And ultimately, gainful employment is the number one measure, and that's one of the reasons I put it in there. So I'm talking with Mr. Hill, who is the coordinator for CTE. He, myself, and two of his CTE specialists went to Link to actually speak about that same thing, employment, and also help inform what we're going to be doing. Come fall and spring, that particular youth mentorship program that we talked, the occupational mentorship program, will actually be expanded to grab those graduating seniors. So we will be working with them here. We just had a pilot of what I consider the ambassadors for that program. Then we will be having that continuously.
Well, this is obviously a topic that we go on for hours and hours about. And, I think you have an excellent roadmap. Looking forward to seeing the results. So Leo, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. The whole business.
Sure. Julie Cha, our real estate specialist, has a number of items to provide you some updates on, relates to the VA property, as well as, I think, another item in addition to that. This job.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I have some updates on our, the EDA owned properties that we have pending projects for. So for the 1028 demolition, we have made some progress in obtaining a contractor and getting these structures demolished. Procurement has identified a contractor through a job contract for the demolition, and we are working with that contractor now to schedule a meeting to meet at the site and begin working on price negotiations. And once we have a price that is been negotiated, that agreement will be routed to the through the city channels for approval and proceed with the demolition. That is my first report. Any questions or concerns, recommendations?
I don't have any concern. I guess my question is just to make sure that I know we had some conversation about what we would like to see there once the property is demolished. If we're gonna work with the Portsmouth Arts Council or you to assign it for the link. But I think it would be helpful if we start building those relationships now so that we can get started, whatever those ideas are.
Thank you. Thank you. For the next properties for 1117 and 1121 High Street, this is very exciting. We, at the last meeting, you all executed a temporary lease for the use of the building at 1117 High Street for set design and storage for a feature film called The Pirate King. And so that has been executed and they are utilizing that property currently. Just for information, The Pirate King stars Rob Riggle, who's from Step Brothers, and Jordana Brewster, who is in Fast and the Furious. Okay, and then for the next part, I was so excited about that. Okay. They're building like a giant like pirate ship. So I think it was, okay. So, an update on our renovation plans for these properties. The building department has approved the construction plans for the, replacement of the metal panel re-roof on 1121 High Street and the membrane roof replacement, as well as the interior renovation for 1117 High Street. And that bid package has been submitted to procurement and will be advertised imminently. And the temporary lease is for 2 months, so there shouldn't be any conflicts or anything, and yes. So any questions or comments on the 1117 and 1121 projects?
We'll have a drawing of what the architect.
We don't have
What?
a conceptual rendering of this. So there is, we did incorporate some landscaping into this.
Wait, are we on?
Oh.
Are we still on this?
Oh. We did incorporate some landscaping into this, so that'll beautify the exterior, and then they're replacing the front entrance of 1117 to create a new entrance with glass doors. They're upgrading the lighting. They're repainting the exterior facades. Brian, am I missing anything else?
It's really just getting a refresh, so it's going to look similar, but fresh and perhaps more modern with the sign.
I think that this property also does have potential for working with the Portsmouth Public Art and seeing what ideas they have.
When do the cars get hauled away?
Oh, so that property in the back is not owned by the EDA. That is a privately owned car service center that we do not unfortunately own. Any other questions, concerns?
I just want to go back to, you know, the 1028 High Street, but I just want to make sure that we do something here because Mr. Kills is building condos across the street, 300,000 plus. We really want that to be successful, and I think it'll be a hard sell if he's building beautiful condos even across the street. And it just looks bad. So whatever we can do to try to make that look great will help him and will help the city.
I agree. I'll work out a plan and go for it at our next meeting. I think we can move on to 1220 High Street. Okay, so on your desk, there should be a fee proposal for the consultant to prepare construction documents for the exterior renovations to the 1220 High Street building. The cost of these renovations is $33,485. Is there another slide for this one? Okay.
And that one.
Okay.
Which one?
So the conceptual renderings are on the slide before. You guys have seen those, and that's what our final product will look like. And then, thank you. So then, a timeline was requested to be able to map out when this project will proceed and be finalized. So this is a projected timeline for this project. So today we are hoping to have the EDA vote to accept this proposal for the consultant to prepare the construction documents the, we will then, route the proposal to the city manager and, for signature. And then the consultant has estimated that they will need 60 days to prepare the construction documents. They will then be submitted to the city and, we've, estimated a 45-day turnaround for that to be reviewed by the applicable city departments. Then the project will then need to be bid out to select the appropriate contractor. And we've allotted 60 days for that. And the consultant has estimated that the work will take about 4 months. So our projected completion date is April 29th of next year.
You need a motion to approve them.
How soon was the tenant looking to move into that building? We have a Bridgeport Coffee as an interested tenant. How soon was she looking to move into this property?
So we are actually planning to have a call with Miguel from Bridgeport to go over the process for the drive-through, which will take some amount of months, but we will get into that discussion of whether, this timeline is sufficient and how we can work with him to make it work.
So what, so the motion is to approve this is it pending the exception, if he's going to be comfortable with this? Because do we want, and this is the question for Brian, do we want to go ahead with the construction, not knowing whether or not you're going to have a tenant in this building? I think that's your question.
It's anyway, because our building, whether you
Okay.
get a tenant or another tenant.
I just wanted to make that clear that, look,
Yeah,
so the motion is not contingent on his timeframe.
correct.
Okay,
So I believe that in the past, the EDA has decided that the renovations are,
they're needed to
yes.
to sell the property. I mean, to get someone to move into the property. Okay.
And right now, the roof needs to be replaced regardless. So then we're combining those two projects.
All right. So her motion,
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yes.
second that.
We have a motion to approve of the proposal now.
Whatever it is, 45, I guess.
Motion was by Mr. Barber, the second by.
Yes.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll move to roll. Mr. Mitchell? Yes. Mr. Barber? Brown?
Yes.
Cherry?
Yes.
Tanner?
Excuse me. Yes.
And, okay.
Yes.
Chair, the item is approved by a vote of 6.
Thank you.
Now we have, one other update that we've, from this, 34 High Street.
Okay, so for 934 High Street, as you all recall, we're in the due diligence phase for the purchase of this property. We did execute an agreement to extend the due diligence period due to the environmental testing that is needed, and so that new deadline is August 4th, 2025. So at the May meeting, we discussed the results of the phase 1 environmental site assessment, which revealed a 550-gallon underground storage tank that was marked on one of the Sanborn insurance maps. So the consultant then performed a ground penetrating radar survey to investigate the presence of subsurface anomalies that may be consistent with an underground storage tank. The results of that GPR came back negative, and there was no anomalies consistent with the UST, which suggests that the tank was removed at some point in the past. The consultant has recommended that even though there were no USTs that were detected, that we still continue to do additional testing based on possibility of a possible release of contaminants in the past. So to help determine whether there's contamination and presence of beneath the building, the consultant is going to be conducting a sub-slab soil vapor testing. So this will be a 2-inch diameter hole that will be cut through the concrete slab inside the building, so that they can collect vapor samples. But this testing was opted for because the soil at underground and groundwater testing was not feasible due to the underground becoming present within the area of the property. So I should have the results of that for you guys at the next meeting. Any questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, we do have a update on the small business loan program. I think everybody's aware, we've been working on this for some time. I did speak with the purchasing officer yesterday afternoon. My understanding is that the notice of award has gone out for the proposal for the RFP. They are waiting that to be signed and returned, at which point we can publicly announce who that is. And then from that point forward, they will begin contract development process. We'll be working with city attorney's office to ensure that reflects the goals and objectives of the program. Our hope is that we'll have that finalized by July 15th for let you guys. And for any questions you have, I want to get information just because it's still on the process. It is moving forward, which I know is what everybody is thinking. We'll go on to your next item, the EDA retreat action items. That requested that we continue to include the list of the action items that were identified during the EDA's retreat. So we have a slide here with those items identified. You'll note a good number of check marks here on the list as staff has been working to work through that and engage with various partners involved in each of the respective projects. Chair, if you will, allow just kind of run through real quick where we are with that. Just in terms of the most recently completed action, I think we captured those. Maybe for Crawford Bay, the waterfront development, we are in the process of reviewing the RFP for real estate consultant services. Those responses have gone out to the evaluation committee and a panel so we can interviews are in the process and it's scheduled by the purchasing office. So we hope they have some good news to share, your line with there as well. But that is moving forward. The other most recently completed item, or at least new update, would be the Norfolk flood wall impacts. I know there was some concerns identified about that at your retreat, and I've been asked to throw it down on the project.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, based on that direction, we, and when I say we, myself and CJ Bodnar, the city's engineering department, met with representatives of the Norfolk Resiliency Program to A, establish a working relationship, and B, try to figure out or get the answer to the question, where's all that water going to go if the a wall is built? Well, that there's a lot of information that was shared. It was good that CJ was in the room because he comes with a great deal of experience in resiliency programs, having worked in Virginia Beach recently on all the stormwater things that they're doing. So there's a commitment twofold. One is to continue the lines of communication to understand about their program and how we can be better communicators across the river to determine where there may be future impacts. But also CJ Bodnar has made a commitment to get some more data from the U.S. Army's Research and Development Center, along with the resiliency program folks. So maybe mid, late fall, he'll have some data, more clear data on what the impacts may be for the city of Portsmouth. The quick answer they gave me was none, which I was a little skeptical on, but I'm not a scientist that CJ's, training as an engineer is, but hopefully in the near term, we'll have a little bit more definitive information. Be able to answer the question, what is this going to do to the city of Portsmouth? So,
That's a government funding with that program, is that correct?
yeah, federal government, $2.6 billion number over the life of that. There's some speculation that with all that's going on in DC, is that really going to be the case going forward? They seem to be confident about it.
Why would that not have been a Portsmouth? I know you can ask them, but a Portsmouth Norfolk joint effort? Why was this particular Portsmouth Norfolk?
Yeah, well, my observation is that yes, that would have made a lot more sense if it was all the South Side cities, right? Or all the cities and communities in Hampton Roads. I think that Norfolk probably stood up their resiliency program sooner than maybe we were. And so they were taking active steps in identifying projects and potential areas of funding. So I think that they took that initiative to heart, and they've been working diligently to come up with this plan. I mean, they've got this whole department that's there, funded by the city, and then all of the project money coming from the feds. We'll continue to monitor the project, and work with our engineering department, and hopefully have some more information to share with you the next time we meet.
So each of these items is really kind of a work in progress, if we will be coming back periodic updates as we check. So, or just because it's checked off, does not necessarily mean it's completed. We initiated that task on something. So as we have periodic updates, we share those with you. I would expect them to increase as we are engaged with the development partner, which really for each of these will involve them at some point. And then the last item is the EA City Cooperation Agreement on that list, which will need to be drafted now that we have our project committee appointees will be beginning probably in the coming month to sit down and start talking about some of those roles and respective responsibilities of the city EDA as well as with the Lake District, we are getting ready to revisit the branding and the placemaking plan in July with the assistance of the Marketing Communications Office and David Stages here advertising firm who will be working on that. Marketing department, its budget within a fairly significant funding allocation that was approved for branding and placemaking this year. I think it's $200,000. For advertising and marketing. The zoning ordinance revisions, those are in progress. My understanding is the planning department would like to get back in front of the EDA. I believe later this summer to have a follow-up conversation to get some input and feedback. As they're working through that process, following the presentation that was made at the tree. And lastly, the high street infrastructure, some of the race grant. I do understand the contract that's been executed. Our Federal Department of Transportation, and they're in the process of working to procure design for space. And the entertainment district, everybody's familiar now with the fact that we do have a hotel announcement for the landing, which is scheduled to break ground in July. We have been also having some conversations with the leadership at Rush Street about working on a plan for the surrounding area to be developed. So I have recently, just had a week or so ago, spoken with some trade officers of Rush Street Gaming. We'll be having some follow-up conversations with their development staff to come up with a plan for how we can identify what the desired uses are and maybe an actual market study for what the market demands. We'll be providing future updates on that as that continues. Are there any questions or comments I can present? So continuing whole business, the EDA City Council joint meeting, we do have a new date for that meeting, and that is at the public work session scheduled for August 25th at 5:30. So back on the calendar, we'll be working on the agenda for that meeting, and I've already got off the big start of that. Chairman and vice chair, so we'll work together and be here coming with the readers that checklist to prepare for any in-depth conversation on initiatives and projects. We do have a need to discuss your Smart Start Business Acceleration Grant Program. We had previously made a comment about trying to make these programs more effective. And we continue to revisit them annually. So as we move into the coming fiscal year and relaunch of the first round of applications, we are looking at requesting a change to the program guidelines for the acceleration grant. Again, this grant is for new and established businesses and nonprofits with operations based in the city. Currently, we restrict eligible applicants to those businesses between 3 and 7 years of existence. So we get based that upon their business license when that was issued. What that has resulted in is a number of businesses that have just missed the mark that look like they could be in support. So we have had a number of requests to revisit that. And what staff is proposing is looking to just bump the upper limit of that restrictions to 10 years. So going from 7 to 10. We feel like that is still relatively new in terms of businesses' overall life expectancy, perhaps. This is a situation where businesses are looking to expand and transition in their operations. So we feel like this would allow for us to capture some of those businesses that weren't able to participate the first time around, but still ensuring that businesses that have been in operation for a number of years are self-sufficient and able to expand without funding assistance. So putting this out for discussion and conversation, this is obviously a staff recommendation. Pretty interested in hearing that.
What is it the reimbursable grant or what kind of expenses are eligible for?
It is, and I neglected to put all the program information on the slide, but it is a reimbursement grant. We do require a match of 20% by the applicant. We maximize the whole $5,000 grant amount, essentially that business owner would need to spend $6,000 and be eligible for $5,000 first. We do allow for the same types of uses as the development grant, so that can be more marketing, professional services, so it could be legal services, accounting services, additional consultation services, equipment, furnishings of a commercial nature, also permitted, and then various IT systems.
I'm sorry. Do you remind me, what is the budget of now for the program?
So, we actually reduced it for the coming year. It was $100,000. We reduced that down to $50,000. And that again was just utilization, was not as high as the other programs. I believe that making this change would help us fully second month.
You find that applicants, when they are applying for this, are they being like the map, you know, are they spending the max to be booked enough, or is it $2,000 and, you know, they get 1,500, you know, be a pattern.
A good question. I'm going to defer to Bill. He's really running the administrative program, so Autumn probably has a better understanding of it, but I think that would be true.
It's a mix. We have some businesses that piecemeal will bring, so they won't have to lose $6,000, so they will first do grant up for the grant. And then we have some businesses that they may report it with account.
And when you're in the application, for this one, are they required to submit any kind of like financial information in terms of like their financial health of their business or anything?
That's what we do. For both grants, they have to put in favor.
Is financial health of the business a criteria? Like, you can be award, so if you're gonna make an award to a business that doesn't look like it's in great financial health, or do the awards get prioritized to businesses that are doing well, but need a little bit of a boost to that's how is that?
It hasn't exactly. All of the documents.
You know, because of the reimbursement based grant, that those businesses that they have sort of financial challenges likely to be pursuing policy. But it's certainly something.
One of the risks is that we have been able to use this program to fund the other programs. There was a high demand. So if we expand to 10 years and if we fund the high demand on that, it ignites our ability to fund some of the other programs. It's okay if that's what we want to do.
And extending the additional 3 years for anything without it be retroactive. So for instance, if a company made an improvement, $5,000 improvement on it during the last year, because they weren't eligible for the 8-year business, now that the grant is extended to 10 years, can they claim that improvement that they made in the past year to apply for a new budget or apply for a reimbursement?
Well, this grant doesn't apply to business. That's no problem. That's a grant. But if a business, didn't exceed the 7 years, and last year they were denied for that reason, they can come back and reapply.
As long as their expenses was encouraged. So if they incur the expense, they incur the expense as reimbursement while they were unqualified to be a recipient, and extending the timeframe they have qualified to be a recipient. How old does the debt have to be in order for them to qualify for a reimbursement grant?
So I think we'll jump in. So this wouldn't be retroactive to the past application, so we have these guidelines that they would be taken back for new applicants to the program. Those businesses that aren't eligible for would have the ability to reapply, but only for new expenditures. It was the new applicants, post improvement application.
Extend it to 10 years. I'll make a motion for
Motion in a second. Is there another discussion? You're done. Roll, Mr. Mitchell. Yes. Yeah. Mr. Barber. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Harmon. Yes. And Mr. James.
Yes.
Chair, the item is approved by the six. You're right. Okay, well, thank you for your support with this change. We do think it will help benefit some of those businesses that us this out. So working with follow up with those, working with them so they want to come back and pursue it. Thank you for the change. There is one other new business matter, which is just a reminder that there is a leadership visit planned to Greenville, South Carolina. It was the city council scheduled for August 19th, 21st. I believe I've heard back from Jim Gear that you're going to participate in that exchange. Since we have two of our council members here, they're going to share a little bit more insight into the trip. So, Councilman Fetal, Dr. Dawson.
Yeah, so the goal here is to go see how Greenville has developed their downtown. And as I understand, from talking with the city clerk, we'll have interactions with the folks that have been involved in downtown development. Not clear whether the mayor is going to be able to participate for a little while or for our all-day excursion. But we anticipate some interaction with the city council, but primarily with folks that have been involved in seeing the downtown development plan come together with the goal of understanding what they've done, how they've done it, given that they're city similar size to us, some of the same downtown features as us, and their ability to implement their downtown development plan across a 30-year time span. I know a year ago, I think Brian provided the Greenville story to members of the EDA. Might be worth for any of you who are planning on taking that trip to pull that book out and review any highlighter things that you annotate. I mean, it's not a thrilling read, but there's important nuggets in there that may prompt questions. The clerk sent a note out to several of us on city council who are attending, asking for questions to kind of the folks in Greenville some advance notice on the things that we're interested in talking about. Did she do the same with you all, Brian or Mr. Chair?
I don't believe that we have received that
question. I can certainly follow up with. Okay, so I'll make this offer, but whether she has or hasn't, if you all, those of you who are planning to attend, if you have questions that you're interested in having answered while we're on this trip, send them to me. I'll make sure that they get into the Greenville hopper, so that she can send those ahead, to the folks that we're going to meet with, so that they have some time to prepare for the conversation that we're hoping to have. So it's basically a bus trip down one day, a long bus trip down. All day, in Greenville, and then a long bus trip home. So 2 of the 3 days will be singing camp songs on the bus.
Or you can finish reading.
Or you can finish reading the Greenville book.
Thank you. So we do not have a need for a closed meeting.
But we do have some special guests.
We do. I would like to take a moment. They're here in the room. They have joined us. I'm pleased and trying to introduce you to two of our summer interns, I should say, that have joined us through the city's summer rates internship program. So Deanna Adams and Maya Thomas are both licensed seniors at Churchland High School, and joined our office last week, and that's been really helpful helping right into the number of scientists. And we've got a couple of projects we're going to be working on. Some of them, so I think we've got them until early August, but I need to put you in the spotlight here, but would you like to just introduce yourself and maybe tell us something about you?
My name is Donna Adams. I turned 17 excellent. 3 more days. My birthday's on 18. I go to church sometimes. I'm a rising senior, and I'm doing my name is Amaya Thomas. I'm 17 years old. But after high school, I'm gonna go to college at Canton for architecture.
I understand you guys are PowerPoint wizards, and as a happy graduate, wish you all the best in this election.
Pull some strength in
Great.
They've been great additions to the team, and they informed us that they don't use PowerPoint. They're onto something different. They might be teaching us.
Always open.
We'll learn about the new stuff that they do. But thank you for the opportunity. Were there any other items to be submitted by the board? No, we do have a report back. This is really just kind of an informational update. The department is hosting a Department of Defense industry roundtable on June 25th. We've invited over 20 fortunate case defense contractors to meet with us to have a dialogue about the industry, what they're experiencing, and then they really have a discussion with some of our partners as well, to exchange information and see how we can support one another with resources and networking opportunities. So we'll have the Enterprise Alliance and Enterprise Workforce Council present, possibly because individuals from Toronto may be in the room as well as
possibly some folks from Old Dominion University will be in the room as well.
Full house, I believe.
Share, so like, what is the program?
Been coordinated, she's got the invitation right here.
Oh, if you want to kind of describe what.
Yeah, well, the initiative is to start to connect more effectively with the various industries that we've identified that we're trying to attract or retain. Defense being a big one. So start with that business sector, and went through our list of companies along with other recommendations and, trying to get a critical mass of leadership in those private sector companies to the table to meet with us, meet with our counterparts in workforce development, and build that better connection and communication. One of the big things we're going to ask them is who do they do business with outside of town? Can we contact them? Maybe they're interested. So they're our best representatives. But it's kind of got a lot of tentacles. So I've found these roundtables to be successful in other places, and we need to get on the program.
We'll be doing this for each of our targeted industry segments. All we're in front of and almost daily, but as a collective group, we're bringing together quarterly to have similar discussion. So we'll be doing the same with our logistics companies, manufacturing.
We did send out emails, and I'll make sure I sent you an email. If you can't make it and you know somebody that would be beneficial, or would benefit from this type of program, please have them email me or you email me to give me their information so I can contact them. We want to make sure we have everybody represented, even if it's somebody that's a rising person, rising business in the industry. We want them to feel as important as the ones that are already there. There's a wealth of information, so please share the information.
Follow comment, you may want to, after the November election, get some feedback from the committee that I think the General Assembly established to talk about the impact of the federal situation. So my thought is, if they're going to create any budgetary items that would be given to locality, people need to be at that table if they're going to be. But that's not happening now, but it'll probably happen. I have not seen any output from that committee that the Speaker of the House created.
Appreciate the insight on that. There is a city council committee that puts together the city manager and our legislative representative out of state.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I have no further report backs.
Thanks everyone for your participation. That concludes our